Hi. I was laying awake the other night and, as it does, my mind started going over things and I was thinking about the coronavirus. So I picked up my Bible and found myself reading from the first book of Joshua. And these words kept leaping out at me. Be strong and courageous. Particularly verse 9. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. That comforted me and I went back to sleep. But it made me want to look at Joshua's situation in more detail later on. You know, he was an interesting chap. In the first verses of his book, he'd been wandering with his people in the desert for 40 years. Now it's time to enter the land that God promised them so long ago. Interestingly, Joshua had been there before. He was one of 10 men sent to scout out the place when God had originally directed the Israelites there. But 8 of the scouts had returned saying, "We can't attack these people. They're stronger than we are." And they spread amongst the Israelites a bad report about the land they had explored. That caused great fear amongst the people, and they ignored the positive reports from the other 2 scouts, who were Joshua and Caleb. They told them, "The land we passed through and explored is exceedingly good. If the Lord is pleased with us, he will lead us into that land, a land flowing with milk and honey, and will give it to us. Only do not rebel against the Lord, and do not be afraid of the people of the land, because we will devour them. Their protection is gone, but the Lord is with us." Now, lacking in faith and courage, instead of claiming God's promise for their new home, the Israelites ended up condemned to a 40-year round trip in the desert. I wonder how Joshua felt about that. Resentful? Frustrated? Disappointed? Because of the others' lack of faith and courage, he had to leave this beautiful promised land and go back to the harshness of desert living with them. And now they're back there again. Although the first generation died out in the desert, their offspring have arrived at the edge of the promised land. And this time around, Joshua's got to be the one to lead and encourage them, instead of Moses. Moses was dead to begin with, but previously Moses had commissioned Joshua as the new leader of his people and instructed him, as we find in Deuteronomy, "Be strong and courageous, for you will lead these people into the land that the Lord swore to their ancestors he would give them. You are the one who will divide it among them as their grants of land. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord will personally go ahead of you. He will be with you. He will neither fail you nor abandon you." I wonder how Joshua felt about that. Maybe he felt discouraged after the last time. Would these people have more faith and courage than their predecessors? Would Joshua have more success this time in convincing them to obey God's commands? But if he was in any doubt about what Moses had said, God reassured him. "Moses, my servant, is dead. Now then, you and all the people get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land I am about to give to them, to the Israelites. I will give you every place where you set your foot, as I promised Moses." What a responsibility! What an honour! What a good job that Joshua had a strong faith in God. To be the leader of these people and to get them to their promised land, well, that's not going to be about obstacles. Crossing the river Jordan looked hard enough, and then they're going to have to fight to claim this land. Where did Joshua find the strength and courage to do this? Joshua had been round a bit, the desert mainly. He'd experienced God at work in many ways over the years. He had a strong faith in God and trusted him. In return, God reassured him and guided him. Joshua must have taken great comfort and strength from these words from God. "As I was with Moses, I will be with you. I will never leave you or forsake you. Be strong and courageous, because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their ancestors to give them." It can be very difficult to get a lot of people to agree to do something. It takes strong leadership, and even then some may well go astray. We know that right now there are people who are breaking the government's lockdown rules, don't we? They don't seem to see the bigger picture. They don't seem to understand that their choice of actions now can have big consequences later. I wonder how you feel about that. Resentful? Frustrated? Disappointed? Where do we find our own strength and courage to cope with difficult or frightening situations? Well, Joshua sets us a good example. Like him, we should seek the Lord and do what we know is right in his eyes. We need to look for signs of God at work in us and in our world. When we feel overwhelmed, we too need reassurance from someone we trust, and who better to turn to than God? We can read God's word and be comforted that he is here for us now, as he has been with people throughout history. Like Joshua, we too will overcome obstacles and re-enter our promised land. So as we wait for that day, let's remember God's words to Joshua and apply them to ourselves. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go.